The nationwide protests are making the entertainment industry once again rethink their programming. So HBO Max announced that they're pulling Gone with the Wind until they can find a way to put it in historical context. And Paramount canceled the long-running series Cops over concerns about racist depictions. Now, personally, I think if you put things in a historical context, because if you start pulling every film, you're going to have to pull Coffee, you're going to have to pull all the blaxploitation movies because they're not depicting us the right way. This is a very long list of films. If you put, before you show the film, listen, this was shot when things were different, and we don't do this anymore. That's what you have to put something in context. And I think with Cops, listen, if you balance the people you arrest, if you arrested everybody, if you make it widespread, white people, yellow people, brown people, if everybody's getting arrested, you can have Cops. It just feels like it's a whole bunch of black people all the time. You know, I'm just saying. But I mean, what do you make of this? What do you make of this, Sonny?
Well, we've had this discussion many times before. And, you know, my biggest concern right now isn't the availability of Gone with the Wind on HBO. But a spokesperson for HBO Max has already explained that the film is going to return to HBO Max, along with additional content to provide that context that you just described, because the movie does, in a sense, you know, glorify the Confederacy and the antebellum South, and it doesn't provide the true horrors of slavery. And so I think the movie is going to do, the HBO Max is going to do exactly what you suggest. Nobody, I think, on this panel is in favor of censorship. But again, this is, and what I find interesting is that, like, someone like Megyn Kelly spent all morning, you know, tweeting about this. I'd like to see that same energy from people on the right, rather than talking about this issue, talking about the voter suppression that happened yesterday in Georgia, talking about the 112,000 Americans that are still dead from COVID, you know, discussing things like that, rather than putting Gone with the Wind in context. I think this is much ado about nothing. I think this is a big distraction. And again, it's a discussion that we've had so many times before.
Yeah. Joy, what's your take on this?
Well, to me, censorship is like a lazy way to go. Like Sonny's basically saying the same thing, I think. It's like, so we get rid of Gone with the Wind. Does that solve the problem with racism? I don't think so. And let me just make a distinction between Gone with the Wind and Cops. Gone with the Wind is a completely fictionalized account of what went on after the Civil War, or during the Civil War, I guess, based on Margaret Mitchell's novel. It's a novel. Clark Gable is in it. Vivian Leigh, a British woman, is playing a Southern belle. The whole thing is all made up. Whereas Cops is supposedly a reality show, kind of a docudrama. So it's more dangerous to present the cops as that one way. I mean, we're watching a different reality show this week on television, on news. I mean, but you can't, as you said, Whoopi, you can't really do it to everything. I'm thinking of Downton Abbey. Do people really believe that those upstairs people were so kind to the downstairs? Oh, let's have a party with the downstairs people this week. It's such a bunch of baloney. So, but they presented it that way and made these rich people look good. But it's a bunch of baloney, the whole thing. So let's enjoy the fictionalizing of it as an escapist thing. That's
so,
how
Megyn, do you agree with the networks on this, or what? Okay, and you, Megyn, how are you looking at this?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I should apologize that we're doing this topic, because it was my doing. I was on Twitter last night, and it was a conversation that's been trending. And I actually just thought it would be interesting to talk to you, Whoopi, because you're an Academy Award winner. I believe only the second Black Academy Award winner after Hattie McDaniel, who won an Oscar for her role in Gone with the Wind. And I think it's interesting to talk about censorship in film and books right now, because there are a lot of conversations about what's appropriate and what's not. And I started thinking, we have had conversations like this on the show. I believe, Joy, you and I have talked about specifically Breakfast at Tiffany's and the portrayal of Asian Americans, and how it's pretty much viewed as one of the most racist portrayals in all of film history. And I do just think it's an interesting conversation about what we are going to show. I'm going to become a mother soon. I'm thinking about what kind of art and cinema I'm going to be showing my future child. And I think if I were to show my child Gone with the Wind, I would be probably having to have really serious conversations about the fact that this is a fantastical, completely fictionalized version of the South during this time, which was wrecked with slavery and is one of the most horrific moments in all of world history. So I do think when we're talking about movies like Breakfast at Tiffany's, Dancing with Wolves with Native Americans, Driving Miss Daisy, things like that, it's just interesting to think about how we are going to view art during the historical lens that we are in right now, that so many people are open, trying to have conversations. I did grow up watching Gone with the Wind, and I do view it a little differently, but I would like to know what it means for people who are fans of Hattie McDaniel if it's removed. And I know that maybe this seems like a trite and stupid conversation to some of you, but I was interested in it, so it's my fault this is a topic today.
Well, no worries, no worries. Here's what I can tell you. It's probably what you'll tell your child is what I tell my kids when we turn on movies and it takes place in New York and there are no people of color.
Yeah.
Or it takes place, you know, anywhere and there are no people of color, no Asian people, no brown people, no nothing. You always have to say, cartoons are the same way, by the way. These were shot at a different time when people didn't realize how bad it was not to have actual people who might live in the city moving around in the cities. I tried to make sure that I can explain to people that there's a whole history where people are not represented. And so we have to say, we're trying to do better now. But these were great movies, it just they weren't as enlightened as we are now. That's how I handle everything. And you know, we're four very enlightened women, and so we can all look at each other and say, that's right.